Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sun Devil Learning Lab. My name is Miss Alford and today we are going to be talking about probability. So with that, let's get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so just like we've done really any other lessons, feel free to get out a pencil and get out a piece of paper to take notes, or maybe a notebook you've been taking notes on or with throughout the summer. And feel free to pause the video at any point to take notes down, but this lesson's pretty important. It's gonna have a lot of stuff you can write down, diagrams maybe you wanna take note of or draw yourself. So feel free to at any time to do so. Whatever helps you to get probability across is what matters. So let's get started. So the objective today is I can understand that a probability is a number between 0 and 1 that represents the likelihood that an event will occur. So this sounds like a lot, but it's going to make a lot more sense as the lesson goes on and we can understand what probability is, these numbers between 0 and 1, and then like the likelihood of an event. So it is a lot, but hang out and rest assured that we are going to figure it out together. So first off, I want you to consider this. Consider these circumstances and these words, these sentences. Says, have you ever heard of a weather forecaster say there is a 40% chance of rain tomorrow? Or maybe a football referee telling a team there is a 50-50 chance of getting ahead on a coin toss to determine which team starts the game. Maybe you heard about the likelihood of dice being rolled and you getting doubles. Or maybe how many marbles are in a bag. With the number of marbles in a bag, if I pick one, what's the likelihood I might get this? So these are called probability statements. And in this lesson, we're going to investigate probability and how likely it is that some events will occur. So I want you to just think about maybe any situation. Maybe it's like even asking your mom or your dad or your guardian or whoever you live with and asking, hey, what is the likelihood I can watch TV for 7 hours straight? Do you think there's a big chance that that might happen? Is it very likely or is it not so likely? So those are the kinds of events that we're going to be considering. So let's get started. So we are going to discuss marbles. And here we have a probability scale. And it says impossible with a 0 at one end. And on the other side, we have a 1, and below it, it says certain. We're going to be paying attention and using a probability scale throughout the lesson. So if you want to draw this down in your notebook, this will be very helpful for you to be able to make sense of probability and likelihood events that we're going to be talking about. So let's say I have a bag with 4 white marbles in it, and I can't see what is in the bag, and I shake the bag. Why is it certain that I would draw a white marble? Why is it absolutely certain that if I stuck my hand in a marble in a bag that has 4 white marbles in it, why is it certain I'll pull out a white marble? Well, it's certain because we only have white marbles. We don't have any other color. So we will only pull out a white marble. So no matter how many times we do this, we will always pull out a white marble. So that's why I put, we have our bag with 4 white marbles, and I put that underneath our certain. Now, let's think about it on the other end. Why is it impossible to draw a black marble from the bag of white marbles? So say I have my bag, I close my eyes, I put my hand in, move it around. Why would it be impossible to draw out a black marble? So I put the 4 white marbles on the other side. There I'm asking, what about a black marble? Well, it's impossible because the only colored marble we have in the bag is white. So no matter how many times we pull from the bag, we are only going to get white. Therefore, it is impossible to draw a black marble because there are no black marbles. If we put one in there, it would be different. 3 white and 1 black, that would be very different. But in this case, it's impossible to draw a black marble because there are only white marbles in the bag of 4. So why is impossible labeled with a 0 and certain labeled with a 1? Well, 0 indicates that it is not possible. So we have our 0. It is not possible to pick a black marble. And the 1 underneath the certain indicates that every selection is going to be a white marble. So we have our 0 and we have our 1, where 0 is absolutely impossible, never going to happen no matter how many times we try. And then 1, where it's positive, absolutely certain that we are going to achieve that every single time we do it. So we have 2 opposite ends of this probability scale. Well, now let's add a little bit to our probability scale. We have still our 0 are impossible and our 1 are certain. But now we have this halfway through, half, 1/2, where it says underneath equally likely to occur or not occur. Then we also have unlikely and likely. So equally likely is right in the middle. We know when things are equal, they're going to be the same. So there's like a 50-50, 1/2, and then unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely. And then more likely, but not certain. So pay close attention to how far away these are and the build up to 1. So our new example is a bag of 2 white and 2 black marbles. The last example we did only had 4 white marbles in it. Now we have still 4 marbles, but 2 are white and 2 are black. So that is going to fall underneath our half, our equally likely to occur or not occur, because 2 of them are white and 2 of them are black. We have our 4 over here, like I'm adding these ones from the last example that we did, where we picked a white marble from 4 white marbles from a bag. It is absolutely certain it'll happen. And then we had if we want to pick a black. Well, now we have 2 black and 2 white. And we're laying that here underneath our equally likely to occur or not occur. Why is this equally likely to occur or not occur labeled with 1/2? Well, we can look at this as, like I said, a 50-50 chance of getting black or white. So if I shook around a bag that I can't see on the outside, close my eyes, I have 2 white and 2 black. Close my eyes, I pick out. I have a 50-50 chance of pulling out a white marble or a black marble because there is the same amount of each. Therefore, it's equally likely it can occur, or maybe it doesn't occur. But the chances are equally likely, and those are important to understand those words. It's not quite unlikely because it's even. And it's not more likely, it is equally likely because it has an equal amount of colors and 2 black to 2 white marbles. So what might be in the bag if it was unlikely but not impossible to select a white marble? Well, what if we went down to maybe there was 3 black and 1 white marble? That would change it because it's not certain. It's not more likely because there's less white than there is black, but it's not impossible. Therefore, if there was 3 marbles that were black and only 1 white, it would be more unlikely to select a white marble. So definitely pay close attention, like I said, to this probability scale where we have our equally likely to occur right in the middle and our impossible and our certain on the other ends. So what is probability? Now that we have those examples, picking out marbles and from a bag and being able to pay close attention to that probability scale that went from 0 to 1, probability is a measure of how likely it is that an event will happen. So those words are very important. A measure of how likely it is that an event will take place ultimately. Well, probability is represented by a number between 0 and 1. And we saw that on our probability scale. It went from 0 to 1, 0 being impossible and 1 being certain. So when a probability falls between those two numbers, 0 and 1, it can be expressed in different ways. It can be expressed as a fraction, a decimal, or a percent. But it's always going to be less than 1 because 1 means that it is absolutely going to happen. And some events are certain to happen while others are impossible. And we saw that when we were picking certain marbles from the bag. And in most cases, the probability of an event happening is somewhere between certain and impossible. So 0 to 1. And if it's equally likely, if it's easier for you to think about this as percentages where 100% equals 1, then think about impossible is 0%, equally likely is 50%, and 1 is absolutely certain it's for sure going to happen. And then our unlikely and our likely are maybe our 25 and 75%, where it's leaning more towards one way of 0 or 1. So now we're going to go over some more little examples of the different impossible, certain, equally likely to occur, maybe unlikely or likely. So let's start with impossible. Some events are impossible. These events have a probability of 0. So say you have a bag with 2 green cubes and you select one at random. So we have 2 green cubes right here. Selecting a blue cube is an impossible event. Why? Well, there's no way to select a blue cube if there's no blue cubes here. So there's only green, or it's impossible to select a blue cube. So some events are certain. These events have a probability of 1. So you have a bag with 2 green cubes and you select one at random. Two green cubes still in a bag. Selecting a green cube is a certain event. Well, why? Because you will always get a green cube if there are only green cubes in the bag. We only have 2 green cubes, so if we pull the green one, there's a 100% chance that it's going to be green because that's the only color we have in there. Well, some events are equally likely to occur or not occur. These events have a probability of 1/2 or 50%. You have a bag with 1 blue cube and 1 red cube, and you randomly pick one. Selecting a cube is equally likely to occur or not occur. So you could either pick the blue cube or you could either not pick the blue cube. Since exactly half of the bag is made up of blue cubes and exactly half of the bag comprises red cubes, there is a 50-50 chance it is equally likely of selecting a blue cube and a 50-50 chance of not selecting a blue cube. Okay, so now some events are more likely to occur than not occur. These events have a probability that is greater than 0.5. These events could be described as likely to occur. So these are more than the 50-50, but not quite certain. So if you see here, we have our probability scale. We have our impossible, equally likely, and our certain. Likely is going to fall between equally likely and certain. So maybe this is like a 75%. Okay, so if you have a bag that contains 8 blue cubes and 2 red cubes, you select one at random, it is likely that you will get a blue cube. So here we have our 10 cubes in total, 8 of them that are blue and 2 that are red. It is likely that you will get a blue cube. Well, why? Even though it is not certain that you will get a blue cube would be selected most of the time because there are way more blue than there are red cubes. And some events are less likely to occur than not to occur. These events have a probability that is less than 0.5, and these events could be described as unlikely to occur. So unlikely falls over here on the probability scale and is about, I would say 25%. So it's going to be less than half, but not 0. So if you have a bag that contains 8 blue cubes and 2 red cubes, and you select one at random, it is unlikely that you will get a red cube. So there's 2 red cubes. Even though it is not impossible to get a red cube would not be selected very often because there are way more blue cubes than red cubes. Therefore, it's unlikely, but it's not impossible for it to happen. Okay, so now we're going to do a problem together, which says, decide where each would fall on the probability scale. The numbers from 1 to 10 are written on small pieces of paper and placed in a bag. A piece of paper will be drawn from the bag. So you have 5 different statements here, and it is your job to figure out where they might be placed on the probability scale. So is it impossible? Is it more likely? Is it more than a 50% chance? Is it exactly a 50% chance? So pause the video, make a probability scale, and just jot down where you think each letter might go, A, B, C, D, and E. And then once you're done, unpause the video, and we'll come back together and we'll talk about each one. Okay, so a piece of paper with a 5 is drawn from the bag. A piece of paper with a 5 is drawn from the bag. So what is the likelihood that we'll pull out a piece of paper and it'll be a 5? Well, it is just one number out of 10. The chances that we get a 5 drawn from the bag out of 10 different pieces of paper seems very unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely. A piece of paper with an even number is drawn. Well, we have, from the even numbers that we have from 1 to 10, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So we have 5 different numbers to choose from out of 10. 5 plus 5 is 10, so there has to be a 50-50 chance that we get an even number or we get an odd number. So it is equally likely to occur or not occur for an even number to be drawn. A piece of paper with a 12 is drawn. Well, the only numbers that are written on these pieces of papers are numbers 1 to 10. Therefore, 12 could never be drawn. Therefore, that is absolutely impossible, no matter how many times we decided to draw numbers. A piece of paper with a number other than 1 is drawn. Okay, so a piece of paper with a number other than 1 is drawn. So that's, you can draw a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, 6, all the way up to 10. So there's 9 other numbers to be drawn. Anything but 1. So that seems pretty high. But there's still a slight chance that you could choose 1. You close your eyes and pick out, there's a good chance you could choose 2 through 10, but there is still a slight chance that you could choose a 1. So say there's 10 numbers, 9 of them you can choose. Well, there's a 90% chance that you won't get a 1. So it's more likely, it's not quite certain, but it's more likely than we're going to pick a piece of paper with a number other than 1. So that's why D isn't quite on the 75, because we're at like a 90% chance of that happening, because there's 9 numbers that we can choose, or that we could have the likelihood of choosing other than 1. And then lastly, a piece of paper with a number divisible by 5 is drawn. Well, there's only 2 numbers divisible by 5. That's 10 and 5. So that's 2 numbers out of 10 that we can choose from. So it's going to be unlikely, it's not impossible, but I want you to pay close attention that it falls after, it's more likely than A. So a piece of paper with a 5 is drawn from the bag. So that's 1 number that we are hoping to get. 1 number. The chances of that is very unlikely. Well, now it's 2 numbers that we're trying to get. One of the 2 is going to be drawn. But there's still 10 numbers in total. So it's a little bit more likely than just banking on, because we can get a 5 or a 10 and not just a 5 this time. So it's a little bit more likely, but it's still very unlikely, because there are 10 small pieces of paper and 2 of which that we would potentially be drawing and creating the chances for that. I know that's kind of confusing, but think about this as like percentages, this percentage scale, whereas there's a 10% chance here because there's only 1 number being drawn out of 10. The chances of a piece of paper with a 5, and now this one's saying a piece of paper with a number 5 or 10. So we have 2 numbers to potentially be getting. So that's why E is going to be closer to the right side on this probability scale. So now we have a spinner example. So also, once I say these and say these examples out loud, I want you to maybe draw a little picture of what the spinner might look like. So create a spinner so that the probability of spinning a yellow is 1. So ask yourself, maybe pause the video and you draw it down. But also you could ask yourself, well, we want the probability of spinning a yellow is 1. Well, 1 means that it's certain, so that we are for sure going to land on yellow. Well, in order for it to for sure land on yellow, the entire spinner needs to be yellow. Okay, so create a spinner so that the probability of spinning a yellow is 0. Well, we know 0 also means it's a probability is completely impossible. So if the spinner is not yellow, were it all yellow to be certain, then we have to make it a different color, because we're going to be landing on blue. Therefore, it's impossible we spin a yellow. But lastly, create a spinner with 2 outcomes so that it is equally likely to land on the yellow or blue parts. So we know equally likely means a 50-50 chance. Well, we have a circle, we can just split it in half and we have a 50-50 chance of landing on a yellow or landing on a blue. Okay, so this, like we just talked about, the impossible, the certain, 0, and 1. We're going to go over it a little bit more. So an event that is impossible has a probability of 0 and will absolutely never occur, no matter how many observations we make or how many times we do it. We could do it over and over and over again, and it'll never happen. We put 4 white marbles in a bag, and we hope we draw out a black. It is never going to happen, no matter how many times, until a black marble is put in there. Therefore, in a long sequence of observations, so no matter how many times we do it, it will occur 0% of the time. An event that is certain, or 1, has a probability of 1 and will always occur, which means that in a long sequence of observations, it will occur 100% of the time. So going back to that first example that we did, it is absolutely certain we will pull out a white marble every single time if there's 4 white marbles in the bag. Therefore, 100% of the time, no matter how many observations No matter how many times we do it, it's going to happen. So I have another examples of these different events. I'm so sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So what do you think it means for an event to have a probability of 1/2? So we know that it's 1/2 falls right in the middle, 50-50. So what does that mean? And a long sequence of observations that we would do, it would occur about half of the time. It would be around a 50-50% chance of happening. If we did a ton of different observations, did it over and over and over again, for the event to have a probability of 1/2, then it would occur about half the time. Well, what do you think it means for an event to have a probability of 1/4? Is it likely or unlikely to happen? So 1/4, if we're thinking about our probability scale, where might that fall? Is it a before or after our half? In a long sequence of observations, it would occur about 25% of the time, which is less than half, making it unlikely to happen. Like I said, if we did those observations so many times and we were trying to figure out what the probability of this 1/4 was, then that means 25% of the time when we did those observations, it was unlikely to happen. Okay, so I have this example here for students that want to have more to work with. I would totally recommend drawing out the probability scale like we did before for this other one and decide if each of the following events is impossible, unlikely, equally likely to occur, not occur, likely, or certain to occur. So do the same thing. Go through these. A vowel will be picked when a letter is randomly selected from the word I can't even, in lieu of something. Lieu. A vowel will be picked when a letter is randomly selected from the word lieu. So go through these and really think about what it's asking and kind of figure out where it fits on your probability scale. And then, so go ahead and pause the video because we're going to be going on to something else. And the next slide is going to be the answers for this. Okay, and here are the answers for those. So see, what was your reasoning behind your answer? Where did it fall? What things did you consider? Those are the things I want you to be getting more familiar with. Why did you choose to put them on a certain place you did on your probability scale? So go ahead and pause the video, go over which ones maybe you got right, what you got wrong, what their reasonings were compared to yours. Okay, so now we've come to the end of the lesson, and I just want to get across that we talked about all of this multiple times, and I hope it makes sense. I hope that you've gotten familiar with this probability scale, that you feel like you are comfortable with the 0 to 1, unlikely, equally likely to occur, not occur, certain, impossible, with these words that mean so much when it comes to finding the probability of certain events, the likelihood of a certain event. So what is probability? Probability is a measure of how likely it is that an event will happen. And probability is a number between 0 and 1. And like I just said, we use this probability scale to help us determine where these events will lie and how likely they will happen. Is it absolutely impossible? Is it absolutely certain? Or is it equally likely? Or does it fall somewhere on the 25 to 75 or somewhere on this scale? It is going to fall. But it's our job to figure out where it does and the likelihood of the event. So this last slide just shows I have the learning guide connected to this video, and there's going to be some extra practice problems that you can work on. And so feel free to click on that link and do those. I really hope that you guys were able to take a lot away from this video. Feel free to go back through anything and jot down some notes and really get a good understanding of probability, because it is so important, and it can be really complicated to understand. But once you do, and you start from the very basics, and you can build to there and build up once you know the fundamentals, that's very important, and you'll be able to find the likelihood of really any situation. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching this video, and I hope you were able to take a lot away from it. Bye.